your visuals.
An artistic visual, exactly. Now, what comes next? He puts up. This comes exactly next in the text.
Chunky bacon.
Okay, just silliness, right? So, like, what? I had read a lot of programming books in my life. I actually even helped write and edit a couple of books on XML. Artistic, visual, exactly. Now, what comes next?
Oh.
Yikes.
It's live.
Okay, great. Pressure's on. And like, I don't know, sometimes you read a programming book and there might be a little joke kind of embedded in the example source code, right? Like something kind of silly, but nothing at all like this. Wyatt was making fun of himself. He was making up stories about something as boring as a programming language syntax. It's kind of a story about variables sliding down the chute into the block. And hi guys, welcome. And looking back, I can see exactly what Wyatt was doing. He basically hacked my brain. Think about this. So humans, we've been sitting around, 3 stone fires, telling stories to each other for something like 0.2 to 3 million years. That's kind of the best estimate. That's how long humans have been able to have fire. And I think as long as we've had fire, we've been sitting around and telling stories. You won't believe what happened today. This guy walked in front of me and I was driving. That's what people have been doing. And our brains are deeply, deeply wired. And we've only been reading for about 5,000 years. So if you can kind of hack into that storytelling part of our brain, it becomes much easier to remember things. So I think that's really what he was doing. He was just kind of doing a story to help us remember how you use those pipe characters in Ruby. And so what about the cartoon foxes? Like what's he doing there? I think the cartoon foxes, the chunky bacon cartoon, is also another kind of hack. Just simple comic relief. If you make someone smile or laugh, chemicals get released, and you kind of feel good. So if you're trying to learn something really, really hard, and you start laughing, it gives your brain kind of a recharge, and it helps you be prepared for another round of learning something really intense and hard.
In a way, you let your guard down. You let your resistance, whichever resistance that you had towards this, it kind of goes down a bit once.
Exactly. Totally.
So
Exactly.
it becomes easy to memorize. You won't, because of being funny and laughing, you won't forget easily. Compared to if you just
if it's too serious, it also gets boring, I guess. But once it's some bit of break or some comic relief, you feel okay, I think I can continue. You at least you get your interest is increased, aroused kind of.
Right.
Because it is too serious.
Exactly. Have you guys ever heard of the practice of meditative laughing?
There is such a.
So let's do it right now. All you do is you just start laughing. And at the beginning it seems really awkward, but then it feels like you're laughing, and those chemicals get released. Laugh, everyone. Do you feel it? So that's meditative laughing. But I think there's actual value in learning when you tap into that. Okay, so where were we? I was learning Ruby from Y's, very strange book full of cartoon foxes and silly stories. So I got intrigued and I started reading Ruby Ruby blogs and reading code from sample projects, and slowly I began to realize that that Rubyists weren't just a bunch of programmers. It was more like Rubyists were part of a culture, and a culture that really valued this silliness and sharing and creating kind of funny, awesome stuff. It didn't have the corporate feel of the Java communities that I'd been a part of before. Or even like, I feel like .NET communities are kind of like these robotic org-like communities. I've been a part of those too. Rubyists, it was fun and cool, and I realized that this was actually a culture that my team of Malawian programmers could join in and enjoy as well. So that's what we did. We all read Wise Book together, and we started watching these videos. There were these Rails Envy videos. I don't know if anybody's ever seen them. A couple of guys that would get together and talk about something like model view controller. Like why would you separate your code into that fashion? But they were fun and hilarious, and we were learning, but we were having a great time while we did it. And then we started kind of asking questions on the IRC, on the Ruby channels on IRC. And then soon we were answering questions on IRC. And before I knew it, my team of inexperienced VB drag and drop kind of programmers had become like open source. They were using Vim, hacking on the command line, and it was fun and great. So I don't know. I mean, I think I already talked about how the stories that Why the Lucky Stiff uses in his book helped teach me Ruby. But I think, as I've thought about it more and more, I think stories are embedded even deeper into Ruby and Ruby culture. So, and I think it's in his book also. So we'll talk about that. There's our fire that we're sitting around. Right. So there's my team in Malawi. I think this is this year. Let's play Count the Mzungu. No Mzungu. I left 5 years ago. They're not all coders. They're not all coders. Only a handful of coders.
All this stuff.
But it's like it's a Malawian organization run by Malawians, entirely Malawians, and they've been very successful. And they continue to roll out this system. I think it's at about 150 clinics in the country, and yeah, it's been great. Let me see. I thought we were going to look at examples. Where are they? Right. Okay. So, who wants to read this one? Can someone just read out that code to me? Where's our Java program here? Read that one to us.
You want me to read?
Just read
Class
it.
of public stack report menu, string args, system of print line. Hello.
Good. We probably all know what that means, right? Now, who wants to read out some Ruby?
5 times print or delay.
Okay. These examples are from Wise Book.
Exit unless restaurant include aura.
Okay. It's kind of a play on words, that one, but
Toast, cheese, wine, each food print, food capitalized.
okay. So let's see if I've got it all. That's it. Yeah, that's it. So, we talked about this before. Any programming language is just this abstraction on top of the hardware, just a bunch of instructions. But as I said, I think our abstractions are getting better and better. And to me, at least, I mean, many people would disagree, but I think better abstractions look like more readable code. And what is readable code? I think readable code is a story. It's something that it can be parsed by a compiler, but also by human brains. And the quicker that your brain can parse code, then the quicker you can make it better by being able to fix a bug or adding a feature or making it faster. And I think Ruby really lends itself well to telling stories with code. As an aside, I think that's why naming variables is so important. Well-named variables help code read like a story without having to put in a bunch of comments. Okay, so back in Malawi, I kind of jumped forward because I showed that picture, but we ended up building an HTTP-based electronic medical record system with a touchscreen user interface, right? And this was years before Apple had released the iPhone and made touchscreens ubiquitous. Back then, touchscreens were kind of like this weird thing. But our users were these elderly nurses who had never seen a keyboard or a mouse, so we really didn't have a choice. They needed some kind of interface that they could just punch their way through. And yeah, like I said, it's now about 100 clinics. And oh, let me just show you. Just have to go back to this photo. See this guy right here? He was one of my first VB coders, and now he's country director of this organization. So I think that's a Ruby success story right there. Okay. So yeah, so thank you, Ruby, for making that happen. Now, at the end of 2009, so what is this, 5 years ago, why he stopped responding to emails, he stopped going to conferences, he deleted his website, he deleted his blogs, his Twitter account, he even deleted his GitHub account, all the code. Every piece of code that he'd ever written, deleted. And then nothing. A few people sort of claimed to know his real name, where he worked and that kind of thing. But when I was looking it up, it was mostly contradictory. I think on Wikipedia now they've kind of got it figured out.
It looks like standard love.
It looks like
tender love.
Tender love.
Tender love. Oh, I don't know what
Another Ruby core.
I don't know how to say. Okay. But as far as I'm concerned, his real name, his real workplace, that's all that alter ego. It's just uninteresting to me. That's like Peter Parker or Clark Kent relative to Superman and Spider-Man. Those are the interesting characters. So yeah, nothing. Then last year, a single file appeared on his on Y's otherwise empty website. Although now I looked at the website today, and now it seems like some guy in Australia has taken it over and is trying to act like Y. It's really weird. But a year ago, his website kind of had this single file that you could click on, and what it was a file that was full of low-level printer commands, like kind of what you would send to a dot matrix printer. Okay, very few people knew really what to do with such a thing. One guy figured it out and turned it into kind of put it into a big PDF and named it Closure. And it sort of helps explain why the Lucky Stiff and his disappearance. I won't even try. I've read the Closure document. I won't try and summarize it. It has something to do with the power of being unknown. If you're unknown and anonymous, it lets you kind of do things outside of your comfort zone and be more than you might otherwise be. Yeah, I won't philosophize anymore on that. Let's see. This was one of the things that gets generated from that printer command. Doesn't make a whole lot of sense. This was another piece. And then this is just a quote of his that I'm going to leave us with, and I think it'd be good for us to talk about a little bit. So I like this quote because it really speaks to that to that time I shared with you about when I found Perl. I can make stuff and create stuff, I can do things. And he's kind of encouraging us, like, create. Don't just sit back there and judge other people's work, or build stuff. And I think that's what Ruby is really good at. So I think that's it. That's my Twitter handle. So that's kind of my story of this crazy guy, Y the Lucky Stiff, and a little piece of how it affected me, and yeah, I hope you guys found something interesting in that. Not too much Ruby in there, but maybe we can talk about that next.
Thanks. So, can you switch? So, any of you have questions about the talk?
Oh yeah, that's what I was. Go ahead. Okay, about the system that you guys developed in Malawi.
Yeah.
Like, I thought you like still maintain it. What's the status of it? Do you like just deploy it once, then stay that way? What happened after this week?
It's still being actively developed and deployed. Initially, it started out as a system that was focused mostly on HIV care, but it has since expanded and is being used for tuberculosis, diabetes care and treatment. There's like generic patient registration, which is used at the biggest hospital in the country to register every patient that comes. Excuse me. So yeah, there's a team of programmers that's continuing to develop and work with it. So
Most of it still Ruby.
yes, I believe it's all still Ruby. I mean, we used, the way that we created this touchscreen interface is we created a layer of JavaScript that would take a regular HTML page and render it in a touchscreen friendly format. So like most systems these days, there's quite a lot of JavaScript on the front end as well. So is anybody going to go and read the poignant guide?
Again. I'll try. I'll try to read it.
Read it when you want a headache.
Then one more thing.
Yeah.
How was your experience like programming in Perl, as in compared to say Java, C++? How do you like? What was your initial experience once you started to like discover? Yes, you could do stuff with it. What did you use it for initially, and how was your experience with it?
With Ruby, you said?
No, with Perl.
Oh,
first
with Perl.
Then.
Well, so this must have been like 1997, 98.
The early days.
So like internet started well, I first got on the internet in 94 when there were like 200 websites total in the world. So 97, this is things, I think Google started right around there as well. So Perl let you start, downloading a web page and parsing a web page, scraping a web page. So I've always loved scraping websites for data, and I still use it all of the time. If someone doesn't publish an API for their data, well,
you make one.
you make one with screen scraping, and Perl was and is very, very good at that. Ruby's great too. There's lots of tools, and I mean I think now you can do. Clearly, you could write a screen scraper in C++. Java has good screen scraping tools as well. But in terms of being able to sit down in a day and make something, I haven't had much success in doing that with Java. But with Ruby or Perl, it's like, sit down, let's make something cool.
And considering this was the early days, really, version 1, or you can say version 1.2 of the internet, like really early days. So, as it came in very handy, in those, even still today, but those days, I imagine.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, compared to like, I think a lot of it is just kind of the theoretical side of what's taught in school, with versus the like what you can do with the internet.
Oh yeah. So it was like now the practical hands-on, as now you can like see, do something like that.
Yeah.
In fact, Matt's borrowed a few things from Perl and also Python. Came up with Ruby. Which is much more simpler.
I kind of thought of Ruby as object-oriented Perl when I first started working on it. And I think that still rings true.
So does Perl, does it have any like, platforms like Rails?
Yeah. They've got lots. I mean, Perl has tons and tons and tons. Like in Ruby has gems, which is all those libraries you can install. You know, you want a screen scraper, install Scrub it or whatever. Perl has all of that stuff as well, but it's just not as easy to glue it together. You know, because Ruby is object oriented, you've got classes and methods into those classes, and you can connect them together. Perl, you can kind of put that stuff together, but it's just not as nice. And that's my opinion. I mean, a Perler would disagree. So, yeah.
Then which books did you like use, or like which resources did you use to like improve your knowledge of Ruby once you started to learn it? Like how did you like initially start?
Well, I think I was trying to, it's that culture thing.
Yeah.
We actually bought, there's the Pickaxe book, which is, I think, the most popular Ruby on Rails book. So we had those books. But the way that we learned in Malawi was by like hanging out in IRC and saying, how do I do this? And some guy would be like, look at my pasty. I think pasty was originally developed by Rails guys. I can't remember.
So pasty.
But like, you know, here was a way people were sharing code. And so you'd be like reading it, trying to understand, you know, okay, how do they use a regular expression? Okay, and then you would like post up your example and someone would be like, oh, why would you do it like that? That's so stupid. And then they would help you get better.
Oh, so it was like you had to learn very hard.
And like, and this is important because in Malawi, like I bought the Pickaxe book, but I had to get that when I went to the States. And there was
in those days, as in
Malawi is not Kenya, right? Like the infrastructure of Malawi, there was like one bookstore in the capital, and there's no programming books.
people don't like me.
So like,
the Africans don't, not me.
so if we're dependent on a book to learn how to become programmers, we're probably gonna, you know, struggle. But because, I mean, we were lucky, we had a decent internet connection, 128 kilobits for about 50,000 shillings a month.
On about it.
It's still expensive today, but not that but still.
So, but by being able to be online, then you can be part of this community. It doesn't matter if you're a Malawian, you can be hanging out with guys in Palo Alto. And that's what we did. And that's how we all got to be better programmers.
Has the community changed, or is it still as open and still as helpful?
Well, so here's the big disclaimer. I don't write much Ruby anymore. For the last almost 3 or 4 years, I've mostly been writing CoffeeScript, which is, you guys know CoffeeScript?
Yeah.
It's JavaScript, but it's JavaScript with all the ugly syntax taken out to make it look more like Ruby. So you can kind of write JavaScript in a Ruby kind of approach. And then it compiles into JavaScript. So I mostly write CoffeeScript with a CouchDB, working with a CouchDB backend. So you kind of, I've eliminated that whole server layer most of my work. Because it's tablets and mobile phones and that kind of thing.
So Rails only serves as a backend.
That's a big debate. I mean, does Rails just become this RESTful server, that's providing resources, or should it still be generating dynamic HTML? I think more and more we're using Backbone and Ember and all of these things, React to move it to the client, Angular. So
as you start to scale, you start looking at alternatives like let the client do most of the groundwork, then just let the server test.
yeah, I mean now it's a possibility. 10 years ago, you couldn't use the browsers couldn't do much. But like Twitter was built with Ruby on Rails in 2004, I think.
206.
206. And everyone kept saying, look at Twitter. Ruby on Rails doesn't scale. Because it would crash every day. Twitter was constantly crashing. Because at that time.
Yeah,
and they slowly evolved, and they don't use Ruby on Rails anymore. But Ruby on Rails let them build something really quick that people liked, and then from there, you change the technology behind it. I think Ruby on Rails scales fine now.
Yeah, it's
I think it's really good for startups. Because as a startup, you don't want to use like a language that will take like developers long to come up with a product.
Yeah.
So it's easy for developer, and after that, for startups, and after that, they can maybe use other technologies.
Yeah. I mean, one of my favorite programming sayings was from Donald Knuth, who said, "Premature optimization is the root of all evil." Right? It's like just build something. If it's slow, don't worry. You can optimize later.
Yeah.
Any other question? Yeah, we'll move to discussions.
I've lost it again. Sorry.
So we've not been meeting for like a year now, and some of the members that we had before, some of them have moved to other countries studying, others are working, and so we try to move the group to online, and maybe have a fewer monthly meetups, and do like everything online. So interactions have really been really slow. People are not very interactive online. So wanted to discuss how do you think we can make the community more active online, because also sometimes most of us are not available this time. If you move it to weekends like Saturdays, other people are resting, other people are working, traveling. So how do you think we can make a Ruby community more active again? Both having meetups and both online. Also, another challenge has been, initially we used to focus on giving tutorials and talks about how to begin. Like most of them are beginners, but we realized if we focus more on the beginners, we lose the advanced Ruby developers. If you focus more on advanced development, we lose the beginners again. So it was challenging, and we didn't have a lot of managers and tutors to help us. So it's an open discussion. What do you think, guys?
I think one way you could approach it is if you come up with a project, it could be just come up with a project, and everyone is allowed to contribute. So you can meet periodically then you basically share experiences, code, stuff like that. So that collaboration will probably help in bringing people together and also help them to contribute and also learn from others.
That's true. We initially like our online portal was group spaces, so that what we were using before. So we decided we can create our own rather than using like group spaces, and it was only the free trial was only limited to 50 people. We decided to start like our own portal, build it from scratch. So the development right now has like it's not active anymore. We later decided to start another project and start a simple website using is it Jenkins? Yeah. So right now, yeah, Jenkins. Yeah. So right now our website is running on that. It was simpler to bring it up compared to having to deal with start everything from scratch, devise, building a members list and all that. So we started that, and there's also like a small project, fun project, which I'll share with you at the end of this meetup. It's something we'll be able to build in a week if most of us will be available.
So I would like to suggest that physical meetups actually are great, as much as we do everything online. So I don't know, bi-weekly meetups or monthly meetups like this time. I'm sure from 5, most of us are flexible. So I don't know, you can speak for yourself. It's just a suggestion. So, because I'm excited to see all of you.
Bi-weekly on
Face-to-face
Thursday
meetings.
from 6. Does that work for most of us?
So if it doesn't work for you, just speak so that we can and see the way forward. Because last time what we did, we just asked guys, okay, can we meet like bi-weekly? Okay. But the next thing we knew that no one was there to meet. So show up and weekly? Bi-weekly.
So my
that's
thoughts-
for-
Bi-weekly.
Yeah.
After 40 monthly.
My thoughts are that you run it like a chess club, because me, I belong to a chess club.
Chess.
So yeah, chess club. So I play a lot of chess. So the way that we do it is that we always meet weekly. But even if 2 guys show up, it has never been cancelled. Like, because the problem is there's a time where there's high attendance, especially when there's a tournament coming and the guys, they have to practice so that they can perform well in that tournament. But sometimes there's like low turnout. It even reaches a point where you turn up and you are the solo guy. So when you're solo, you always have your chessboard and you have your book. So you set up your chessboard and you start. So if somebody else comes in and now you have 2 guys, then you can say, oh, let us play a chess game. And so you keep on improving each other. And if another person comes, there's always like extra chessboards and stuff like that. I think that is the way to do it. Like if you ask around and people, nobody's going to say that he's not going to show up. And you never know what's going to happen next week. Maybe you can, you can be tired, or you might be in a project that is going to take a lot of your time and you might not show up. So the thing is to encourage those guys that come, that they don't quit, or that it's okay. Even if you're the only guy that turns up, it's okay. You can come, you can make a tweet and say, the Ruby thing is ongoing and you're the only guy. And if somebody comes up, you can say, hey, it's me. It's still a meetup. It's me and you, so that's a meeting anyway. The thing is that you never stop. And you never stop. And if you keep on And even if there's a week, for example, in a chess club that nobody never turned up, nobody knows because you always assume that there was somebody. So there are some scenarios I think that you think those guys turned up, but in reality nobody turned up. But we always have this idea that it never fails. That even if I was to go right now, I always go with that mentality that there's somebody there that I can play a game with, a chess game with. Because playing chess with somebody is physical, it's great than online. So that is the comfort that you have. So if you have something that you say you stopped for 1 year, if you kept on coming here, or if somebody, or if, and even you can lie, like you can say the meetup went well. Or you can tweet, yeah.
Some comments and
Yeah, people should never think like it stopped.
Yeah.
Like what you did, like it stopped, like you said 1 year, it didn't show. It should never stop. It should go, and people should have that notion that it's always there. It's eternally there. It's forever there.
I mean, at the very least, you could just say, like, to expand on what you're saying, like, and we probably all have in the back of our head some little thing we'd like to work on or create or whatever, and even if it's just you and one other person or you by yourself, you have like 1 hour where you know you can work on that thing, and that's a reason to get together. So I kind of like, you know,
Read wisely.
And I think like one way to do what you just said is maybe to have like short challenges and also like shorter projects. And so if you go by that, if you reach a time where we don't have to send invites, people will just show up if we decide if it's bi-weekly every Thursday, people will just show up, build things, do things, rather than like sending invites, checking like how many people have checked or not. I think it's a good idea to.
It's also nice to have these maybe larger meetups as well with a set agenda as well for discussing things. Maybe not every other week, but maybe lesser. But to have this set agenda, and then because then you can come prepared and be part of the discussion. For me, the bi-weekly, as I'm a beginner in Ruby, that would be great just to have a short project to work on and then present that and try to sort it out. So yeah.
So bi-weekly sounds like the plan.
Bi-weekly.
That's a
Twice. Oh, bi-weekly meaning twice a month. That's bi-monthly. Bi-weekly is twice a week.
Oh, that's
So bi-monthly is twice a month.
We meet
Every
after every 2 weeks.
Every 2 weeks.
Yeah.
That's by month.
I would say bi-weekly is every other 2 weeks.
Depends whether you're still keen weekly or if you're okay with
Okay, after 2 weeks, sounds like.
Yeah.
second, was first
Every
Thursday,
Thursday.
second, third, the Thursday, something like
Like second Thursday and the last Thursday.
Let's see how does that work out.
that. It can be both.
So that you get
So I
your
said,
advance
you're
and have
writing
some
Ruby
more.
Something.
Yeah, when people have some advance.
So it'll be which one? Okay, some months I've got 4 weeks, some I've got 5.
Just
So if it's a 5 week month, it'll be once every after 3 weeks.
once a week.
yeah.
Or after every 2 weeks, we meet. After every,
So then you get
we
lost.
skip a Thursday, do a Thursday, skip
Yeah.
another.
But then you get lost because you say if it's the first Thursday and the second Thursday,
Even bi-monthly.
and then after 2 weeks it becomes the third Thursday.
Yes,
and the
but now if we say that this Thursday we meet, next Thursday we skip, the other Thursday we
Yeah.
come, like that, you won't get confused.
yeah. So
Yeah.
So you said that
Skip a Thursday.
Next Thursday and become
Yeah.
the Thursday after next week.
come the wrong Thursday. Guarantee it.
So it's like
Okay, if you got your email, we can dedicate ourselves to doing
If you send it through Nairobi, I'm on the music groups. Send it down.
So that when you register, you can get that reminder.
Or you give a calendar, you can put it up on a Google Calendar.
That's a good idea to just have a count.
Yeah,
culture.
Then
exactly.
once you have that culture, even if you don't show up, you don't worry that the group is going to die. Even if I come 3 months later, I'm still sure that it's still continuing. Because the testing, like in my just got like them even go for like sometimes even for 3 months. But if so we did every Friday. So it's every Friday. So I know if I go Friday, I'll meet somebody. So sometimes it's me. And out of nowhere somebody else just shows. And then we have a game.
We need to build a culture.
Yeah,
rather than
it's a
having-
culture thing.
So the way we used to have it before is we used to have like a speaker at IHUB, and everyone was sitting listening to that speaker. So it was all about that. So people didn't learn a lot, and so that's how it was. And we didn't build that culture of community. Yeah, and I think we need to change this to build a culture, as my friend is saying there.
And the other thing is to just be great at what you do. Because I keep on alluding to chess. The thing with chess is that the better you become, then the more people want to play with you. So it's like you're always improving so that you become better and so that you're able to play better players. So I think the same thing happens with programming. Like if you keep on doing, you don't have to wait for the 2 weeks in order for you to see Ruby code or for you to write Ruby code. Like in between those 2 weeks, if you can improve yourself and become better and come and showcase something wonderful that you created, I think that is great, and how people will be gravitated towards you, and you like challenge guys, and yeah, so you don't have to wait until, because that's the problem I also saw, that if you put these things like 2 weeks, sometimes people are lazy in their minds or in their thoughts, and so they have like, okay, and then you show up and what did you do in the midst of those 2 weeks? And they didn't do nothing. So the approach that you had like you had a presenter say, so people always come thinking that, but if people get into this culture where they come and showcase their work, or maybe they come and ask a question, maybe in those 2 weeks you couldn't be able to read some of that book. Like he got stuck on a certain page and you're like able to. So I think that is also a way to go. So people to keep on improving in those 2 weeks and to always be better than the guy who you think is better than you. Or to teach him some tricks or two.
So have you worked with any community, but like things you think they're good in that community that we can borrow in this community? Anyone?
Google developers. No, Nairobi Python user group. I just like subscribe. I subscribed some years back, but at least okay. From one thing that's good about them is okay. The online conversations, they're like really, yeah, they very active as in when it comes to like, especially email and asking questions and so on. That's probably one good trait I can say they have. They're quite active when it comes like, to online discussions and contributions. You can't like miss each day, like seeing some kind of question coming in or like some offer if there's maybe either like a conference coming up or job offers and so on. So I think that's also an important thing when it comes to online participation. Just encouraging it as much for everyone as much as possible. Yeah.
And then Python guys have also assigned somebody to be in charge of all the beginners who join the community.
Yeah.
So you can
Maybe that's something.
So it's a good thing. It's a good thing.
It's something you can borrow.
Automatically.
So I do BlackBerry community. I've been doing it for 3-4 years now, and one thing that I find guys excited about is when they build products and they want to showcase to others. So those guys actually keep nagging me when should we have a meetup so that they can showcase and get feedback from other guys. I think that's some culture that we can build here. Maybe what you're working on. Though sometimes maybe you might be working on something that actually belongs to the company and you might not showcase. But of course you can do a side project that you'd like to get feedback from people. And then maybe you can inspire the amateurs. The culture can go on. people can keep learning.
And I think Ruby mostly is about open source, and if we can people we should also encourage or like try to come up with build open source projects, so it can be your own like your own personal project, or your like for your maybe a small business, but it can still be open source. So that it's sometimes I think it's like people are not, they like to hide what they're working on, and sometimes they end up like stopping. So you might think maybe they're like, so they're always saying they're working on something, but then they don't showcase it, and they end up stopping, and no one knows what they're working on. So having like to show up things you're working on, I think it's a really good thing. And also, if we can come up with our own open source projects, it's also good.
I also think we should write about ourselves so that the conversation goes on beyond these meetings. At least this is the first step. After this, we'll have our video, which will be on YouTube, so that the guys who didn't come here can listen on our discussion, and maybe they can participate on the comments, and you guys can maybe share with your friends who you think might be interested. So maybe a blog. I'm sure IAB is more than willing to post our blog after this event. So if someone can blog, you can always forward to IAB. They can post about the event. Who is a blogger? Everyone is a
who's active.
who is an So if you have a friend who is an interesting blogger, you can invite him to have fun at this place and write about us. Those are guys who just keep writing. It's like they feel it just for us.
Updates the Kopo blog.
Sorry?
Like for you guys, Kopo, who updates the blog? As in, is it just anybody?
Yeah, anybody in the company can write a post.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Mostly business guys.
No. But then basically anyone can write.
But anybody can tweet also, right? You can tweet and then hashtag any rules. If you have like a Ruby thought or a Ruby quote, like go and create.
That reminds me, we have a Twitter handle at Nairobi Day. So you can follow us. I'm sure like 3 guys here will follow us. So you can just follow us.
You might not always blog, but you can always tweet.
And see you have been tweeting. After months.
So there's another project I'll talk about our Twitter handle. So I'll talk about it when you're done with that update about the conference and the bus challenge. Talk about it. Any other thing about those 2 things, meetups and interactions?
But there was about when we met last time that we should buy a coffee machine. So that at least when we meet,
Next time
we can enjoy some coffee and stuff.
after a 2-hour meeting.
Yeah. Maybe
That's a good idea.
Maybe coffee can turn out to a translating with some project altogether.
Or they give us vouchers for it.
Yes. Yeah, but buying coffee machine was unrealistic. Like who will manage the coffee machine? All the logistics that is involved in the coffee machine.
Unless you have our own offices.
Once you get it, at least once you start getting traction, it can work. Once you start getting
With a flask.
and the cheapest is maybe getting some vouchers, maybe you go to Beats, then actually can get at a discount or something, or you organize with maybe like Beats to get someone to handle maybe initially the first days, then maybe once you got in some traction, now it's when you get
And the coffee upstairs has a discount than the coffee that is there.
Oh, but she's not happy.
We have a discount.
Yeah, it's cheaper by. Remember, things
20.
upstairs are cheaper by $20.
About 20.
Yeah.
It's the same price.
Then once you got in traction, you started making sales. Then you start selling. You have now coffee machines. But I think those are good ideas.
Programmers with caffeine. For those 24-hour hacks.
Hackathon. Oh, wait. Hackathon. That's a good idea. A hackathon.
Yeah, we can have a hackathon also.
Very good idea. Good on you.
I'm not organizing.
But a hackathon is a good idea. Yes.
Also, a time we had a boot camp, a whole day boot camp, and we had around 60.
Which is a good time.
So that time we were,
For us.
sorry,
Who was our leader for that one?
for the boot camp.
Yeah, who led that time at that
That's
time?
good. You had the beginner group, intermediate group, experienced group.
Yeah, so it was me and other Dev.
Dave
Right,
King.
yeah, Dev, who is in the US right now, and also Boberman from Google. And also there was also another guy from Safaricom. It's called GOAT. So we both organized for that bootcamp. But later everyone came busy.
Some ways to have traveled some days.
The idea is that when they become busy, the other guys take up the post. And that is why I'm saying that you keep on improving. Once those guys, yeah, they start becoming busy, then the guys who are earlier on, they become better, and then those other guys, the office. It's supposed to be like a conveyor belt.
I don't know if you've written all those ideas. Keep track of all the
ideas.
guys of what guys have contributed about.
There's a bit.
Yeah, everything is recorded.
Because I'm like, it's all in your mind. Oh, it's easy to forget.
Yeah, including jokes.
It's a great community. Yeah. But if it's something, it's okay. At least you have. That's people.
So I think there are two things we work on, hackathon and then the conference that I'll talk about.
Yeah, so we'll start with that bi-weekly meetup, meetups. I think if we become consistent in that, our community will grow and things will change. We'll have a very active community. So another thing, we've been planning about a conference. So we wanted to have this conference this December, but we thought it was too close, and we haven't established an active community. So we moved that to it's gonna be to February or early March, and me and Mike decided to make the community, to create more traction first and make the community active, and then by that time, then we have the meeting, the conference on February. Maybe Mike, you can update us on the arrangements and plans for the conference.
So actually, it was just a kind of a dream that you wake up in the morning and you write about. So I've been pushing Pandas the past 1 year to reactivate this community. So I thought the best way is to start doing something about it. So I thought if you had a bigger project, at least you will start with small projects. So I thought, why can't I surprise him with the conference? So I know he's good at writing code, but not writing other stuff. So I just wrote some rough proposal on the conference. Then I shared with him, and he thought it's a good idea. And then that's what we have actually a rough proposal that we have sent to a couple of companies, which we are in discussion. Actually, most of the companies right now they are closing the year, so I think they'll get back to us in January. So we also thought it's wise from you guys who have shown up today to form a kind of a small committee whereby we can start working on that conference and see if we can get good sponsorship. The money we raise for conference, we use most of it on the conference to make it a bit more awesome. And the remaining money we can decide to be using for our coffee. We don't need to buy a coffee machine, maybe coffee meetup, and any other logistic issue that we have in the community. Like this space, actually, we are being asked to pay 600 from 6 to 8. So those are some of the things that we need to keep in mind. Finances. So the response from the company is not bad; it's positive, and I think it's time to do this. Luckily, there is one of us who is in South Africa, and the Ruby community is very, very active, though it's online, and they thought they could help us to make it as active as this one, because they have conferences every year, which actually informs the companies around there is Ruby developers who exist in Kenya locally that they can hire and then just outsource from them. And I'm sure guys will be willing to learn more and more when they know they can be hired at the end of the day or get some project. You know, that's basically what we have right now. So any thought about how to go? Maybe when we form the committee, I'll share the proposal that I have. We can improve it. We can see how to. Though I've not tried to approach local companies, I know it's tricky for them to sponsor anything. They like where there is a camera. So maybe if you have any thoughts on that, I've not actually approached any local company. So
Another thing that we need before we send invites, we need to have a page. So about the event and the dates and place where the event is going to be.
Because on our package that we have defined is that we'll advertise their company for some time on our page, and maybe share Twitter tweets on what they do and what we are doing, so that we can just have the audience. So right now, as much as we have that package, someone goes to nairobi.org and they don't get that page where there is the event, where they can be posted. And see the people who have committed to be sponsors, so they can see how it goes. So if we can have that as soon as possible, the better.
Another thing, we need speakers. So if you know, like anyone who can speak during that day, that would be great.
I'm sure even among us, we can start preparing to be speakers. Like 3 months.
Talk about why lucky stuff.
Yeah. Actually, we are not like fully looking for financial support to companies. They can send, like GitHub was willing to send someone down here to be the speaker. So that's something good. So it doesn't have to be financial. So guys, we willing to send a speaker.
So have you organized a Ruby conference before or been involved?
No, I've been to Ruby conferences. But, I haven't made one. I mean, I like the idea of at least having part of it be a barcamp style. Take some of the planning away and lets people do what they're interested in. But yeah, I'm happy to help as I can.
This would be our first time.
All of
Maybe
us.
for a big conference.
No, personally, I look to be the one of the biggest conference for the engineers. I understand most of the conferences for the guys in suits, guys who make decision, high level decision, but this one is targeting the developers, hackers.
So we'll talk about this more online. Running out of time. So there's these small. So how many of us can write a Ruby code? Maybe simple Ruby code. I think most of us Ruby. Yeah, Ruby. So this is one of the a short challenge. So it should take like 5 minutes to come up with a solution. So you can click that link. More details about the challenge. So if you have a Ruby console, you can. Let me send you. If you don't have a Rails installed, I can send a Ruby install.
Just send the GitHub link.
There is an online portal where you can write.
Okay, so this is the code here.
Let's complete her. That's it. So if you want to let's go to
So there's a link I've sent in the email, so you can CodePad. So you can use CodePad to write code. So to write code and execute it.
change. So this is we haven't done events. This is what actually runs, is it? This is what runs, and this is what goes through, this is what you actually do and stuff. So you actually see like the class and then you run the class. I was confused with Ruby is that you have this tests. Create your tests before you write your code. I've never done that before.
So if you finish, you can let us know.
Main space. Is there any other?
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't cut my laptop out.
Let's wait till we finish. So that's
Get this.
It almost works. I'm doing this.
Until
That's crucial. Use it. Yeah, I think so, yeah. That is if there is. That is if this event has the values. So it could
Yeah, some goods and then just this is not choosing and then we subscribe to her. So you need to
rush to events. How would you
Used to succeed in it.
I need to show up.
The tutor.
Wow.
Sorry guys, I have to leave. But it was nice meeting all of you.
Yeah.
So,
Not only
my name is Tibet. I work with hotel.
Can you wait like 1 minute to introduce the project and then
Okay.
oh good.
That's
Open the slide. Yeah. So for fun projects this week, we've had this challenge. So we have a Twitter account, but no one logs into tweet. So Kingori, who is in South Africa right now, came up with this idea that we should write a Twitter bot. So anytime you put from your own Twitter handle or from your own account, anytime you tweet and you include hashtag Nairobi, it gets retweeted from the Nairobi account. So that was a project you can do before we meet next meetup. And these are the tools and APIs. So this is a application. You can use application authentication, which allows you to query the API more than 450 times in 15 seconds. That's enough. Like we can't. I'm sure we can't tweet more than that. So maybe we can have something running in the background after 5 minutes. That's so James, we can use HTTP party or type yes. There's also a link to the REST API for Twitter handle. So what do you think of this? Is it like a useful project or some?
Yeah, I think it's a good project. Try out.
Do you have the time to do this?
Right now.
Not right now.
Yeah, I don't think like you are required to finish that project before you come for the next meeting. It would be nice
Yeah, to
if you
finish.
try.
Yeah.
And then next time everyone meets, then you can discuss if you have challenges or.
Okay, so I think that's the end of this meetup. Thank you everyone for showing up. Let's meet next Thursday the Thursday after next Thursday. Yes.
Wait, we don't get the solution.
Yeah. So take us through.
Sure.
So anyone can, if you're in a hurry, you can leave.
It took me a little while to understand what we were trying to do. But I kind of reverse engineered what we were trying to do. So you wanted to be able to subscribe to messages that were being passed to a bus. I can do a good job of talking through this. So what I did is I created a hash called subscribed, and that would be kind of our data structure to keep track of what has been subscribed and I'll talk about what goes in there down here. So so when an event is emitted, first we check to see if we're subscribed to whatever that event is called. If we are subscribed to that event, then we want to call the callback attached to that event. And the first mistake that I made is that you can be subscribed to you can have multiple callbacks per event. Why do I say that? Because down here, you subscribe to air with this callback, and you then subscribe again to air with a different callback. So my first mistake was not to treat it as an array, which comes down here. But at any rate, so you go through each of the callbacks and just call the callback and pass the data that was passed in. It's there. The subscription thing is when you subscribe to something, you have to see if you've already subscribed to that event. So in this case, it was like error. If it doesn't exist, you create an empty array. So that's what this is doing. It checks to see if it exists already. If not, create an empty array for that event. Then push onto that array whatever the callback was. So this is like the array of callbacks, and then this is the one that loops through the callbacks and calls them. So probably a bad explanation, but
Yes, it was they said it was simple, and it only takes 5 minutes.
But you have to like be able to think through step by step what first of all the output's supposed to be, then how you now have to work backwards. Yeah, sort of like reverse engineering.
it helped once I just put this at the beginning. I wrote what I expected supposed to see. So then when you call it, you see what you're supposed to do, and then it's kind of like what you're saying. You write the test beforehand. That's not exactly what I did. But I'm rough approximation. Okay, see you. Thanks, guys. See you. I need to go too. I'm celebrating Thanksgiving.
Yay! So are you going to have turkey?
Yes. Turkey, mashed potatoes.